Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Hey, this is Ben Jone of Ohi, and you're listening to the New Warehouse podcast. Today's safety tip is to reduce trips and slips hazards by keeping your warehouse floor nice and clean and tidy. That's always a problem in a micro warehouse with limited space. People need to move around freely and do so safely.
Outdated and bulky, legacy scanning technology continues to drain warehouse efficiency. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible hardware solutions, like WorkHero from Rufus Labs. Utilizing WorkHero's efficiency-boosting wearable scanning technology, mobile device management, and labor management tools, warehouse managers will be able to easily access key performance metrics and improve operations. With their cutting-edge monthly subscription model, you're always provided with the latest barcode scanning wearables, productivity analytics software, on-site redundancies, and 24/7 global support. Superhumanly simple. Make your warehouse team superhuman with WorkHero. Go to www.getrufus.com to learn more and schedule your free demo. That's www.getrufus.com.
How do you create warehouse superheroes? The answer is simple. With visual voice scan solutions from ProCensus. With record demand and labor shortages, warehouses need more effective workers and lightning fast onboarding. Visual voice scan solutions from ProCensus enable warehouse workers to achieve superhero performance with up to 20% improved productivity and up to 99% accuracy. Hands-free barcode scanners from ProGlove paired with wearable mobile computers is just the beginning. Improved mobile interfaces with reduced keystrokes, easy-to-read screens, custom keyboards, voice-enabled interface, and more can be realized with ease on the leading WMS platforms. Sound too good to be true? Let us show you with our one-of-a-kind virtual demo. Visit ProCensus.com to get started today. Again, that's ProCensus.com to get started. With e-commerce off the charts, many small and growing warehouses are asking, how can I get ahead when my warehouse is barely keeping up? The answer is future-ready warehouse tech from Zebra Technologies. Warehouses can simplify and upgrade all processes, from automated inventory management to hands-free picking, with Zebra's tailored, scalable mobile solutions. They're simple and intuitive. There's never been a better time to upgrade for success with Zebra. How can your warehouse get ahead? The answer's in black and white. Get the answers at zebra.com/theanswer. That's zebra.com/theanswer. Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates and wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I am going to be joined by a previous guest, Ben Jone. He is the founder and CEO of Ohi, which is a micro fulfillment company dealing in micro warehousing. And you may remember we talked to them way back in 2019, prior COVID. Actually got a tour of their micro warehouse in Manhattan, which was incredibly interesting. It's like on the floors up in the building, and they're fulfilling orders out of there within a very short window of time. So it's a really interesting concept, and it's been quite a while since we've connected. So we're going to catch up with Ben and see what's been happening with Ohi. We're also going to talk a little bit about their strategies going into the future and their kind of recent funding round as well, which is allowing them some expansion. So he's going to tell us how things have been since we last talked and all the new things that are going on with Ohi. So Ben, welcome to the show. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me again. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you again as well. Right now we're connecting. You're across the pond, as they say, I guess, in England. So
I'm here in London for a short period of time, yes.
Yes, so good to connect still and hear about what's going on with Ohi. So for people maybe that are not familiar, just started listening to the show recently, haven't heard the previous episode, why don't you give us a little brief overview of what is Ohi?
Yeah, sure. So Ohi is an instant commerce platform. Mm-hmm. And so our core belief is that in the very near future, next 18 months to 2 years, all commerce will be instant. Consumers are just increasingly expecting everything they buy online to come within a matter of hours. And the problem that we're solving for is that generally that trend is being driven by large marketplaces, whether that is your Amazon, Walmart, Target, even newer players like a GoPuff or DoorDash, really driving that consumer expectation faster and faster and faster. The problem is that for everybody else, for anyone that wants to sell through their own e-commerce site, it's impossible for them to do that on their own. It's impossible for them to offer that same level of convenience and service and that post-purchase experience as the big marketplaces. And that's really where Ohi comes in. And we're really that enabling platform to allow instant experience across every e-commerce site, whether that's on Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento, wherever you're selling your product, Ohi can connect and enable you to offer instant.
All right, interesting. And I think it's really important in there that you mentioned that Ohi is a platform, because I think, there's a lot of like micro warehousing and people may think it's all about the physical space, but you guys have your own built out system. So tell us a little bit about that and how that works.
Yeah. And so when we met back in 2019, we were very focused on building out the kind of infrastructure layer of the physical warehouses and the technology to power those. And we spoke a lot about micro warehousing. And I think one of that still exists, like our system is still based on the concept of micro warehousing. But one of the things that we've learned really is that instant is so much more than just the physical aspects of the space and fulfilling orders in the micro warehouse. And we've really seen one thing that we find fascinating is that when you're getting goods to customers in less than 2 hours, or actually less than an hour, our average delivery time now is 56 minutes.
Wow.
And when you're getting product to consumers that quickly, they're willing to stay engaged with the brand that they've bought from in a way that they're just not, even for something like same day delivery. If you bought something, now I know it's 6 a.m. your time on the East Coast, say you bought something at 6 a.m. for same day delivery and it would come this evening, there's no way that you're spending 12 hours staying engaged and interacting with the brand. Yeah. But if you ordered something now at 6 a.m. and we told you it was coming in the next hour, we open up that space for you and the brand to continue interacting with each other. And for us, that's really, been one of the really interesting and powerful things of what we're building and that instant experience is that we create this new space that never really existed before, in which brands can continue to interact with their consumers and continue that brand experience all the way through to box or in our case, bag opening. And so that's really a big part of our mission is broadened from, hey, we want to be a micro warehousing company to actually, we really see ourselves as an instant commerce platform. And we really enable this instant experience in all its different forms beyond just the logistics.
Very interesting. And I do remember, seeing the platform on the tour I got, and very well built out and very simplified, and I'm sure it's been upgraded now about 2 years later, right? So, talk to us a little bit about, I guess, how else you guys have expanded. I think when I was there, you had about 2 or 3 locations, or maybe the third was in the works. So is the physical footprint expanded, and, has it been more focused on building the platform out so retailers can use it?
Yeah, so I think over the last year, obviously the big thing that happened in between when we last met and today is COVID. And I think what we, which, a fairly drastic change in how everyone lived. And I think one of the things that really helped Ohi in a lot of ways was consumers suddenly realized that it wasn't convenient to have to wait 2 or 3 days for a product to arrive when they ordered online. And COVID really caused this paradigm shift in consumer expectations to wanting things instantly. And the market really has accelerated in our direction over the last year. And so for us, the last year has really been, very rapid growth of new brands coming onto the platform and building a lot of the technology to help those brands have a better experience and be better serviced on the platform. And so the physical network today we're in 5 cities, but we are right at the start of a significant expansion across the US. So we'll be in 25 cities by the end of 2022. Wow. We just hired a team both out of GoPuff and Amazon, and led by a guy called Jared Lovell, who ran network development at Flex for a long time. And that expansion team is really now focused on scaling the physical footprint, whereas what we really spent the time over the last year building was a lot of the technology underpinning that to support our growth. So I think that's really been the big change. Obviously, with that expansion of the brand base, it means that we're doing significantly more orders than we were when you saw us. I don't remember exactly what we're doing, but I think it's probably very likely that we're doing many more orders in a day-long period than we were in a month compared to when you last saw us. So, it's been significant growth of brand and adoption, and just an understanding from the e-commerce community that it's not really a nice to have anymore to do instant. It really is something that consumers are asking for and demanding. And we can talk more about the kind of ROI benefits of instant, but we see when you offer instant as a brand, consumers reward you, and it builds a huge amount of brand loyalty and really help grow LTV for brands that we work with. And I'm happy to give you some stats there.
Sure. Yeah. So I want to ask, as we're talking about this through COVID, you mentioned in there this big thing, right, that happened. How many brands, because brick and mortar really, kind of took a huge hit. So how many brands are able to kind of actually just shift their business model in a sense by utilizing your platform? And are there any examples of how that kind of changed their approach to the way that they're selling their products?
Yeah, well, I think you've seen more broadly in the industry a lot of big box retailers partnering with Instacart, with DoorDash, with Uber to enable fulfillment from store and enable an instant experience from store, whether that's people like Best Buy, Bed Bath & Beyond. I think I read that Macy's and Saks also were doing this. So lots of the big traditional retailers really started to embrace instant. Yeah. And we also started working with a number of retailers with a physical store footprint where they were looking at how do they enable an instant experience from their store. So the best example of that is someone like Untuckit, who we work with, and they have over 80 stores across the US. And I think the interesting thing for us was taking that very simple technology platform or simple to use technology platform that you saw in our micro warehouse and applying it into a retail store environment. And really what we learned was we can take that technology and really enable instant from any space that has inventory. And I think that's a very powerful proposition. Is most brands, the vast majority of brands, use the micro warehousing network, but we have quite a number of brands that will use our technology in their own physical spaces to enable that experience.
Okay, interesting. Because I think when I visited you guys were only fulfilling for the brands out of the micro warehouses. So now you're actually using the back room of the retail stores to also fulfill as well. Yeah,
and it's the same inventory. So it's true omnichannel. So a consumer could walk into the store and pick up an item and purchase it in store, and someone online could buy that same inventory to be delivered to them instantly. So it's a true omni-channel solution, and I think one that pretty much every physical retailer is going to be offering, whether that's in partnership with Ohi or whether it's in partnership with an Instacart or DoorDash or one of the other players out there that are really focused on doing specifically that.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. I think it's a great thing because I think so many times, companies in the past, they kind of struggled with losing visibility of that inventory like that's at the brick and mortar. So now you're talking about having that inventory not only available in the physical space and in person, but now it's also available online. So which gives you obviously more opportunity to sell it and not have it go stagnant sitting in brick and mortar, especially when less people are coming in during something like COVID. So you talked a little bit about there's some benefits for the retailers and the ROI and stuff like that. So why don't you throw some stats at us, show us, the results.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, so I think this is certainly an evolution in our thinking since we last met. When we very first started Ohi, we were focused on same day, and it was okay. We can do same day. I think when I last spoke to you, we were just launching what we call Rush, which is sub 2 hour.
You're right.
But really, what we've learned is not only that we open up that space for consumers and brands to interact with one another with Rush versus same day, but also the ROI for Rush or for sub 2 hour is so much higher even than same day. So really, where we see the benefits of instant for brands is an increase in repeat purchase rates. So when you offer an amazing post-purchase experience to your consumer, they'll come back and they'll buy from you again and again and again. And we see something. So for example, I was just looking at one of our brands, one of our beverage brands. They saw with 2 hour delivery a 60% increase in repeat purchase rates compared to consumers that ordered via regular fulfillment via UPS or FedEx shipment. Someone that got 2 hour delivery came back and bought again at 60% higher rates. And that compares to a same day for that same brand where the increase is a 31.5% increase. So even from same day to 2 hours, it's close to a doubling in the repeat purchase rates, which is obviously hugely meaningful for brands. And I think in the present e-commerce climate, where digital marketing is becoming much more expensive, CAC rates or acquisition rates of consumers are going up, you really need as a brand to get those consumers to come back and buy from you again and again and again. And that's really where Ohi comes in and helps brands. And that increase in repeat purchase rates therefore translates into the lifetime value of those customers on the platform. And again, just to give you some other stats, same brand, same beverage brand, with 2 hour delivery, they saw a 48% increase in the lifetime value of customers that ordered things and got them in 2 hours. And that compares to a 21% increase of customers that ordered and got the product the same day. Both of those compared to a traditional UPS shipment. So what that's saying is, by offering customers this incredible post-purchase experience, those customers come back and they buy from you more often, and they keep doing so for a longer period of time. And so the value of that customer is so much higher for brands. So I think that's really said to us that why instant is the future, and why what we're doing is really flipping the script on e-commerce for fulfillment from something that traditionally was seen as a cost base for brands. I think most brands would look at fulfillment as just a cost. And we're really flipping that narrative and saying, actually, with instant, it's actually a revenue driver now. And by offering instant, you are driving increased revenue for your brand rather than it just being a cost for you. So I think that's really given us a lot of excitement about what we're doing. And we're now starting to look at how do we do even faster delivery? How do we look at something like 20-minute delivery?
Wow.
And we can we'll realistically be able to do that in the next few months. We'll launch a 20-minute option, and we'll see. We'll start with testing it, but we will see whether we see a similar increase in the ROI for brands with 20 minutes over 2 hours. And I think it'll be really interesting to see at what point does that benefit not come? Do consumers really care if something comes in 2 hours versus 20 minutes, it remains to be seen. But certainly we see a huge benefit of 2 hour over same day.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because, it's almost like, especially for like some specialty type of items, and, you talked about the beverage company, and like maybe, it's not available to some people like in a store that's like close by them. So they're like, I'll just get it next time I go to the grocery store. But now like it's very readily accessible with the 2 hour delivery. So it becomes more of like, okay, like this is like a go-to that I can reasonably get to myself as a consumer. So it's a pretty interesting service. And I mean, it's certainly a value add, I think, for brands, as you mentioned, and the numbers prove it. But, I think, you get down to 20-minute delivery. I think you're going to eliminate the need to ever go to a store at that point, right? Because most of the time, just getting to the store takes like 20 minutes.
So, and I think one of the risks that we see for the direct-to-consumer e-commerce ecosystem at the moment is the rise of a number of these platforms that are offering that, as a retailer. So, these 20-minute grocery delivery companies, lots of them launched here in Europe and are now expanding into the US. I think there really is a risk for a brand that is selling direct-to-consumer and not being able to compete with that same level of convenience, is that consumers will naturally just go to those platforms and buy from on those platforms and get it within 20 minutes. And I think as retailers, as brands, where you want to own that transaction yourself and you want the consumer to come back to your website and keep shopping directly with you, and not just allow your product to be another commoditized beverage product or commoditized dog food brand or whatever it is on one of these platforms. You want to own that brand experience yourself. It's really important to offer that same level of convenience to consumers, because consumers naturally will just go wherever is most convenient for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you talked about a little, and we've been kind of talking about brick and mortar here in between too as well. And you're talking about this expansion into 25 locations within the next year. And I remember when I visited you guys, you were utilizing a space that had not been able to be leased for, I think, several years, and you kind of were able to transform that into something usable. So with COVID, we talked about, obviously there's been a lot of physical stores that have closed down and are now vacant and things of that nature. So is that something that you guys are looking at and trying to utilize some of those storefront spaces in a different way for micro warehousing?
Yeah, and I think we are really at the beginning of a significant transformation in terms of what cities look like and the use of space within cities. I think this really started with the rise of e-commerce, 10 years ago, where it started to become less necessary to have physical retail spaces within cities. And we saw a decline in use of physical retail as more and more people shopped online. Then the rise of food delivery has meant that many restaurants now don't need as large a floor plan in order to service customers in store, and instead are doing a lot more of their volume through the delivery apps. And then finally, I think with COVID, we've seen this third wave of now everyone works from home, and we have tools like Zoom and other digital tools that allow us to work very effectively from home and reduces the need to have physical office space. So there's really been this kind of threefold shift in terms of usage of space within cities, and that as a consequence means there's lots of empty space. And I think with Ohi and a number of other companies out there, we're one of those companies looking at what can you do to reutilize that space, to use it for an economic interest again. And so we use a variety of different spaces. I think the space you saw in New York is the third floor of an office building. We have spaces that used to be supercuts, hairdressers. We have spaces that used to be mechanics, like car garages and mechanic shops. We have spaces that used to be retail spaces underneath office buildings or underneath retail buildings. Really a pretty broad variety of spaces. And it's really about putting our operational know-how and technology into these spaces to make all of these disparate types of spaces into very standardized spaces that all work and function in the same way, which is how you ensure quality in the system and imagery accuracy and pick accuracy. But I certainly think that as we keep expanding, we'll be using a whole variety of different empty, dead spaces that fit our model well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I love the use case because it is kind of a little crazy that all these retail spaces have gone vacant, and there's been this. What can we do with them? How can we use them? And you guys are actually utilizing them in a great way, I think. And it's kind of taking advantage or adapting to the actual situation and consumer behavior change that's caused the retail store to go vacant in the first place. So it's really interesting. So I'm curious, actually. We're talking about micro warehouses with Ohi, right? So do you guys have like a company rule that at what point a space is no longer considered micro?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we generally look for sub 2,000 square feet in terms of space. So they're really truly quite small spaces. The exact sizing of the space for us is all based on the data. So we understand where e-com demand is coming from, and we can use that data to understand the optimal sizing of space within a given market or within a given city. And so spaces, a variety of sizes, somewhere like New York or LA tend to be bigger. E-commerce markets, they tend to be bigger. In other cities, as we keep expanding, they'll be much smaller. So some of our spaces, like in Brooklyn, is an 800 square foot space. So really, really very small. And it's all about like efficiency and turn of inventory through a space is how we make sure it's profitable.
Very interesting. Yeah, I was curious about that. At what point do you kind of cross that threshold of micro warehouse to maybe small warehouse, or I don't know what the next level would be.
And the thing is, it would never make sense to have a much larger space in a single point within a city, because it is, especially as we launch 20-minute delivery, you actually want to get more distributed. So if a 2,000 square foot space was getting close to capacity, you would just open, or what we would do is open another 2,000 square foot space somewhere else within the same city, which allows you to, get even closer to the consumer, offer an even faster experience, rather than keep on expanding into bigger and bigger spaces in a single point within a city.
Yeah, it makes total sense for the delivery goal there. So very interesting stuff. And so you guys just recently got a series of funding as well. So it's really kind of fueling the expansion. As you mentioned, you brought on some new talent. You're going to be in 25 different locations by the end of next year, 2022. So pretty good stuff. But what else is kind of in the future, not only for Ohi, but also for fulfillment in general in your eyes? What do you think we're looking at here into the future? Yeah,
great question. I think, obviously we announced our Series A a couple of weeks ago, which we raised back in April, but I don't know if you saw, we rebranded and we've launched on Ohi.com to really re-emphasize to brands the benefits of Instant as opposed to the underlying infrastructure of Instant. And so really for us, the next year or so is going to be very much focused on expansion, but also really focused on that post-purchase space, that space I spoke about earlier in the call of between checkout and box opening. What do you do there to allow brands and consumers to engage with one another? And there's a ton of really amazing stuff that we're going to be doing that will turn the platform from logistics and fulfillment platform into very much a consumer experience platform, and opening that space up to allow really any brand and consumer to keep interacting with one another. So I think that's one of the things I can't give full details, but I'm super excited about. And I think with that change, when I very first started Ohi, we really thought that we would replace traditional warehousing. I think the way that we're viewing it now is we are never going to replace some of the use cases that you would get at a big box 3PL. And big box 3PLs are extremely good at lots of things, and increasingly, rather than trying to replace them, we're increasingly partnering with big box 3PLs and saying, hey, we can offer this phenomenal experience to the brands that you work with, and we see partnership as a much better route forward than directly trying to compete and be a 3PL ourselves. Micro warehouses are not the best spaces to do full 3PL activity, and I think that's one of the things that we learned in the evolution in our thinking.
Very interesting, yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how you guys continue to expand and how the overall instant commerce market expands and how you guys grow with it as well. And I know you mentioned there's some details in there you can't share, so I'm sure we'll check back in when you can share the details. It'd be great to check back in next year and see how the expansion is really going and really how instant commerce is kind of changing the way people look at retail and how they actually shop. So very interesting stuff from you, Ben. I want to thank you for coming on the show again and giving us a little update here. It's great to see how you guys have grown and how you are planning to grow into the future as well. So if people are interested in learning more about Ohi, how can they do that?
Yeah, you can visit our website, ohi.com, and reach out to us via there. And the website is brand new, and we'll tell you a lot about how we work. And very soon we'll have a lot of case studies showing a lot of the benefits that brands have had since working on the platform. So check out ohi.com and reach out to us from there.
Okay, great. And we'll put that at thenewwarehouse.com as well. So Ben, thank you again so much for your time on the show today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.